Okay, I'm going to do some series of videos here. I'm going to show you the assembly of the LS engine here that's going in the 76 Corvette. This stuff here is basic for any engine. The biggest thing to remember when you're putting an engine together is clean, clean, clean. This stuff has to be super clean. All the parts you're putting into it need to be super clean. I know a lot of times guys are building these things in their garage. Maybe the door is open, the neighbor's cutting the grass, somebody's using a leaf blower. You don't want any of that stuff inside here, because that's grinding compound. That's just going to mess up your day. So clean, make sure everything's clean. What I've done with this block, after I honed it, I washed it down with Dawn dishwashing liquid, a lot of it, water, blew it dry. They went back through the cylinders with WD-40, cleaned it off, blew it dry, bagged it overnight, came back in this morning, cleaned it again with some of my wax and grease remover, got everything clean. There's no dirt left in here. We don't want any type of lint from any of our rags or anything like that. So remember, clean, clean, clean. Let's start putting these bearings in. Now, depending on the bearings you buy, some of them are different than others. This one here specifically calls out, if you look at this bearing, this is the center thrust bearing. And if you can make it out, there's 2 grooves here, and there's 3 grooves back here, and they conveniently put a little red mark on this one. And the instructions clearly say they want the 3 grooves facing the back of the engine, facing the flywheel. Please follow the instructions. A lot of times guys will rip bearings out of the boxes. They'll take them out. Oh, I've done engines before. Shove them in there, and before you know it, maybe there's an oiling problem or the thrust bearing's not working properly, and you get this little knocking sound, and that could be the crankshaft moving. Be careful. The other thing, again, clean, clean, clean. I always like to take a clean rag, and I like to wipe the back of the bearings off, and then run my finger across. I'm looking for any lint. Lint is just like a shim. It will push that bearing up. Any dirt on the block, any dirt or lint on here, same thing down there, will move the bearing up, and it'll close your clearance up, which closes your oil clearance, which is not good for an engine. So we're going to go ahead and start putting these in. Again, I've already cleaned this one. Just set it down inside here. Line it up real nice. You can feel it with your fingers. And that's good. And we'll get on to the other ones. I'm going to pull a fresh one out. I'll show you about cleaning it. The rest of these bearings, if you look at them, for the mains, for the 4 other mains, they're pretty much all the same, but they only go in one way. There's a key and a key. Pay attention to orientation. I have pulled apart engines where I don't know how they did it, but guys were able to shove these things in where they didn't belong. That's not good. So, as I mentioned, you have a top bearing and a bottom. There we go. As you can see here, this is the bearing that goes in the block. You see the groove right here. There's a groove in the block. Oil comes up through here, through the groove, and oils everything up. These things are keyed, as I said, so you almost can't put them in wrong. But I've seen it. So never say it can't happen. We'll get these in here. Again, just making sure it's nice and clean. The factory does put a little bit of oil on these in the package so that they don't rust in the package. Feels good. Make sure your hands are clean. I feel nothing. We'll go down in here. That feels really good. Same deal. Put the key side in first. Push the other side down. Same deal. Yep, that one had a little bit of extra oil on that one spot, so we're going to clean that off. Again, holes, pushes the oil up, holes in the engine block, they need to line up. Some engines actually have specific positions And a good bearing manufacturer will provide instructions as to where each one of their bearings are supposed to go, as this one did on the thrust bearing, which is the main bearing in the center here. You put this in wrong, you're going to have oiling issues. Get the next one in here. Make sure she's nice and clean. Feels good. Nothing there. And I already cleaned this block, as I mentioned at the start of the video, so I'm just double checking myself. Slide this one down in. Feels good. And the last one. That's nice and clean. And always make sure, if you're doing the assembly yourself, the bearings are marked what they are. These are stamped STD. That's for standard, not the other thing. But if you don't talk to your machine shop, if they don't give you the information and they grind the crank and you put the wrong bearings in, you're either going to have not enough clearance or too much clearance. So always double check with your machine shop. One of the good things to do is probably purchase all of your bearings, your rings, everything you need from the actual machine shop. That way you know that they provided you with what that engine's supposed to have based on what they did to it. You know, you might go 30 over with rings, so you're going to need the proper rings for that. You're going to put new pistons in it, or you're going to reuse your old pistons if you're going with nothing. Sometimes guys will go 5 over on a hone to clean it up. You can get 5 over rings, you can get 10 over rings. Put them on your stock pistons and you're good to go. But always double check. I know what I pulled out of this was standard. We did not have to grind the crank. Standard, standard. And it just slides right in. That puts our mains in. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here because I want to go over the crankshaft one more time. I want to make sure it's really super clean, like I keep saying. Clean, clean, clean. You can't have an engine clean enough when you're putting it together. I'm going to go through the crank, make sure it's clean, put a little bit of assembly lube in each one of these bearings, and then lay the crank in, and then start doing the main caps. So I'm going to cut the video here, and we're going to get back to this once I have the crankshaft ready to install and the main caps. See you shortly.